Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our third delivery of our three-part trilogy. We're really happy to have you with us. As explained to you yesterday, this is in lieu of the international conference. We would have liked to present this here, but we're doing the best we can. And given the feedback we've received from the participants yesterday, it was a smash hit because of all the very practical guidance and advice that the speakers shared with us yesterday. Just two house rules. Should you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A section, not in the chat box. The presenters who may be unable to answer your questions during the panel session at the end, or the Q&A session, they will respond to your questions afterwards. And then finally, the presentations will be uploaded on CEOPA's website in due course, should you wish to view any of the presentations again. Without any ado, it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator for this webinar, Ms. Karen Swanepoel, Executive Director of CEOPA. And she undoubtedly needs little introduction. She has been guiding this ship for the past 21 years and is well known to all in this industry. Karen, if you would be so kind.
Thank you, Wim, and welcome everybody once again. You know, we are still celebrating the 21st year of CEOPA's existence. And with that, we could not have a conference this year, and we are making the most of what we've got. So yesterday, for those who did not attend, we had a very good day. We listened to the voice of some of the industries, and that was Mrs. Nicola Loubser from Yucca Forest. It was Tafara from Gobu. It was Obed from Obed's Oils, and also we had another speaker. Sorry, now I'm lost, but it was all from Tandi from not Tandi, it was Nairai from Zimbabwe, and it was all sharing their experiences and their journey. And I can tell you, I can't stop listening to the experiences and everything that these producers are sharing. So for today, we have our first speaker, that's Mr. Grant McMurray from Soil, from KZN. Grant has been with us for a long, long time, and even his father before him. So we really appreciate, and we really are looking forward to what you can share with us in your journey. Over to you, Nora. Nora, that is our first speaker. Ron.
Thank you.
Hello. Anybody there?
I'm here. Nora should be here.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. Please bear with me.
Okay. Wim, while we're waiting for Nora, can you maybe just read us the sequence of the speakers? I'm also having technical difficulties accessing my document. So please, could you just announce the next speaker after Grant, and then also the ones after following them?
Okay. Grant, as you may know, is from KwaZulu-Natal. And then he's followed by a lady from Botswana, Ms. Tandi Lebotse Zulu, the owner of Blue Pride. And she's heavy into vegetable oils, which is understandable given the area she's from. Then she'll be followed by Wynand Gericke from the Roseheap Company or Roseheap Farm, and they operate in mainly in Lesotho and with their offices in Gauteng. And then we have our friend from the Southern and Western Cape, Mr. Adolf Joubert from AfriNatural. So we're covering a fair geographic distribution, I think.
Thank you, Wim. Are we ready for the first speaker?
Been involved in
Great.
the industry for the last 16 years.
Mhm.
So when my dad did the research with the CSIR, if I remember correctly, they trialed in the region of 18 different plant types, which they knew there was a ready market for those oils in the global market. So the first step was to plant our trials, see what grew in our area on our soils, establish that firstly we could produce an oil of a decent quality or a marketable quality, and then beyond that to see whether it would be viable to produce that oil. So we had assistance and people who were knowledgeable and had the equipment in order to establish, firstly, can we produce a quality product that we can put on the market? Of those 18, if I remember correctly, we came down to 5 different oils that we believed were both marketable and of a sufficient quality. I mean, were of a sufficient quality to be marketable, and that we could produce viably. So that was through oil analysis that determined the quality, and then we looked at the price and yield, and that determined the viability of planting those plants. Any person who's looking to venture into this type of business needs to be aware of that what you achieve in year one isn't necessarily what you're going to achieve in the long term. That's something unfortunate. Also, you obviously, as in any farming, there's seasonal variations in rainfall and temperatures, and all of those things play a role in your long-term yields and viability. So that's interesting. As your volumes increase, your price that you achieve actually decreases, because if you're selling 20 liters of oil, it's effectively a break bulk quantity, and you'll find someone's willing to pay a bit more for that quantity. But when you're starting to market tons of oil on the global market, then people become more price sensitive, because now you're marketing further down that value chain to the wholesalers rather than to manufacturers. So that was the other thing, is that the price that we were achieving, when we're selling the small quantities that we based our viability on, those prices came down dramatically as we produced more and more volume. In general, most plants like a nice, well-drained, sandy loam. But, when you're a farmer, you've got the soil you've got. There's nothing you can do about it. So, yes, you've got to look at the soils you've got and try and find a plant that suits your soil type. So soil type is one thing. The quality of what you've done with that soil is another. So when I look at soil quality, where I'm currently farming, I'm converting ex-sugarcane lands to essential oil production. Generally, those lands have been stripped of all their soil nutrients, so the quality is not great. That you can remedy through addition of humic matter, through addition of fertilizers, things like that. So that to me is not the big issue in terms of quality. It's more in terms of manner, because you can regenerate your soils. You can look after your soils better. So your agronomic practices can determine your soil quality going forward. But what you can't really do is adjust your soil type. The soil type, if you've got clay soils, you cannot change them to sandy soils. Those are the soils you've got. So I would say it's more about matching your crop that you grow with your soil type first, and making sure you're growing the right crop that matches your soil type, and then even more importantly, your climate. Making sure that you start with the right genetics. I myself have burnt my fingers with a lot of plant material. I've planted hectares of tea tree only to discover it's not the correct, doesn't produce the correct oil monograph, basically, and results in an oil that's not marketable. It was a very expensive lesson that we had to learn, but you mustn't think that a lavender is a lavender, a geranium is a geranium. It is crucial that you understand that you're starting with the correct genetic plant material when you get into essential oils. In terms of determining that, I think you've got to speak to the supplier, make sure they're credible, make sure they understand, firstly, that it has to be the correct plant material, you need to ask them for some form of evidence displaying that these are in fact the correct genetics that you're receiving. At the moment, we're working on a number of new, not new, but they're new for us, essential oils that we haven't produced and marketed before. And there's certain plant types where we're going through maybe the 5th or 6th iteration of genetic material that we've bought in. We've planted trial lots. We've distilled small quantities. We've sent that oil away for analysis, and every time it's coming back with the wrong material. So we're spending a lot of money, but we're only planting sort of half-hectare blocks, and it's an expensive process, believe me. But we cannot. There's no ways we can establish a plantation and think that we're going to market that crop unless it is of the correct genetic material and produces the correct oil. For me, the yield, firstly we farm our crop organically. Like I say, we take soil samples, and that from those soil samples we get a recommendation of the nutrients that we need to apply to the land. So that will obviously have a direct impact on the yield. If you are applying the correct amount of fertilizer or nutrients, organic or conventional, depending on what you're doing, that is obviously one step in ensuring the correct or the desired yield for your crop. We aren't fortunate enough to be irrigating our crops. We rely on rainfall, so that's a big variable that's out of our control. And that obviously has a significant determination on our end yield. Obviously, if you were irrigating, you can have moisture probes and things like that that will inform you as to when you shouldn't irrigate. So that's in terms of the yield. That is what we look at. It's primarily keeping the crop free of competitive plant weeds and making sure we apply the correct nutrients to the plant. Then in terms of quality, I'm a firm believer that the major driver of quality is genetics. So I believe once you've determined you've got the correct genetics, that goes a long way to ensuring the continued good quality of your oil. Making sure that composition is correct, and the major driver of that composition is genetics. In order to determine whether our oil quality is good, we take the norms that exist for various oils. In some cases, there might be ISOs that will say to you, well, this is the composition of what the oil should be. So a certain aroma compound, that chemical should make up with a range. So let's say 25 to 30%. A good oil of that type should have between 25 and 30% of a certain compound. So we'll know that's what our oil's got to conform to in order to be able to market it. Once we've determined through our genetic selection that we've got the right oil and we produce the oil, we then send each batch of oil for GC-MS analysis, and that analysis comes back and we can see that whether it fits into the norms or not. Our buyers are becoming stricter, and the list of items we've got to comply with are ever growing. So that means there's a significant amount of documentation that travels with our product when we sell it, and a lot of that is various certificates and test results. So firstly, I think, we, as I said to you, we primarily are involved in organic production. So we have to have organic certification. That's an annual process, an annual inspection that gets done by an independent certification agency. And in our case, we certify our product to both the EU organic standards as well as the American National Organic Program. So that's the one thing. As I say, when we are supplying our customers, generally we supply them batch samples of the exact batch which we offer them. So the process we go through is we have our customers, our large wholesale customers or manufacturers, predominantly abroad, who we're in regular contact with them, and we'll have an idea of how much oil they want per shipment. we'll actually put aside that quantity of oil for the customer. We will courier a sample to them, and they will analyze that sample themselves and place a purchase order based on that specific batch of oil. So we actually set it aside. We don't market one batch to multiple organizations. We actually set aside a batch, send it off for approval, and wait for the customer to either approve or decline that batch. In addition to that, at the same time as dispatching that sample to the customer, we dispatch a sample to one of a few labs that we work with. We work with one locally, we work with another in France, where we'll send that oil off for GC analysis to analyze the chemical properties of that oil, again, to ensure that it meets the norms. And some of our customers have their own set of norms that they are purchasing according to. So we have to make sure that it complies with that. Then beyond that, there are various quality standards that our customers are requiring us to have more and more. We are working on a number of those things like so quality management systems, even food safety. Even though our products don't generally make their way into food, the companies that we are buying from do work in food, so they're insisting now that we have our own food safety standards and certification to that. So there's a lot that we have to do. A further one, we look at various contaminants. So in this we do more on a sort of sample basis, not necessarily with each batch of oil going on, but we do tests for phthalate contamination. We do pesticide residue analysis, and that's not just on organic. So through our co-op that I'm involved in, we sell both organic and conventional oils, and pesticide residue analysis is something that we do regular tests on, and we do that both on organic and conventional production. People mustn't think just because you're producing conventionally that it's all right to have pesticide residues in your product. It's certainly not, and buyers won't tolerate it. So that's another type of testing that we get done. In the actual distillation process, a big consideration is the temperature that you're processing on. Essential oils are volatile chemicals, and as such, there are certain of the components of that oil that can be burnt off if you process at too high a temperature. Primarily temperature and the volume of steam that we're using are the two parameters that we monitor in our distillation process. Buyers are becoming more and more discerning and more demanding in terms of what they need when supplying a good. So, what we found is that it was necessary that we club together as a group of people and work together because of how onerous the actual supply chain was becoming. So my thinking was it would be a whole lot easier if I could work with a group of like-minded farmers producing the same commodity as me, pool our efforts, and not all having to be trying to have one person marketing our oil and being able to undergo all these certifications and use our economy of scales, because also these things are very expensive, these certifications. And through pooling our resources, we are now able to meet the demands of our customers. The essential oils have been good to me. I've been fortunate that I was started in the industry quite early. I think there will always be headwinds of various headwinds that come in any type of business. And I think that people must always remember that that essential oil production is agriculture at the end of the day. And agriculture is very challenging, no matter what field you're in. Essential oils, I think, throws a few more challenges because it's a bit more niche. It's been rewarding to me, but it remains challenging. Thanks. Keep up.
Thank you, Grant, for that enlightening talk and sharing with us your journey and this insight into essential oil and vegetable oils from your experience. Our next speaker then is Ms. Thandi Zulu from Blue Pride in Botswana, and she'll be talking on wild harvesting, her journey and insight into vegetable oils. Thandi is always sharing all the information with us, so we can't sit and wait, and we have to just talk and share. Like Thandi, take that example. Over to you, Charlotte, please. Let us see what Thandi says. Next video, please.
Ron, are you ready to share?
Yes, it's just a minute, please. Nancy, can you proceed, please?
Hello?
Okay, I will proceed. Just hold on.
I apologize for the technical issues. We'll be back soon.
Vim, and Corinne, while we are loading the videos, I suggest you could tell some stories.
There's lots of stories to be told. And I think what we are seeing today is exactly how people are sharing their stories with us. And that was the idea of this journey. What these people have learned cost them dearly. And we do need to save each other school fees and share those experience, and rather make our own mistakes and new mistakes and prevent the old mistakes from being done. And I saw in the questions and answer already, there was one of the questions that somebody has asked about the correct genetic material. And that's one of the things that SAOPA would really help our producers with, is to trying to get the right plants from the start. That would be the best place to do. And then after that is the correct method of feeding those plants, correct harvesting, doing your quality control point right through to the harvesting and to the processing. Then after that, into the label and packaging chain. So I think we are ready to go over to Thandi. Enjoy.
You know, I lived in Europe for some time. And there I experienced the fact that actually there was a growing need for demand for women demanding cosmetics that were more natural. So I came back to South Africa, and then I decided, okay, let me start something to meet that demand. So we came back to Botswana, where I'm originally am. So we came to Botswana. And then since I was still working, my son started the business of getting oils, of making oils. Actually, initially, we thought that we could actually get from a company, a community-based organization that was already different, because they didn't have, the quantities were not right. So we decided to get an organization to register a company in 2014 that would then produce the different oils as ingredients for cosmetics, natural cosmetics. The first one we started with, which was in great abundance, marula oil, we started by harvesting it from the wild. We had a problem there because we didn't have the machines. So we had to get companies in SA and get help to give us machines to help us to finance the making of machines to decorticate, that is to crush the nuts that we harvested from the wild. That's how we started, really. That's the background. We are involved in the harvesting and the processing. The harvesting, we have a networks for different raw materials, meeting them, actually knowing them and meeting them, and getting somebody to help you, to assist you to actually meet those requirements. It takes time. It has taken us, like I said, We started in 2014, although we started operating in 2017, and it's only now that we're able to do these certifications and meet the requirements. Although we have already been exporting, we continue to export because we do have the machines to do bigger quantities, but because of those requirements, it has taken us time to do it. The opportunity, of course, why we chose to come to Botswana instead of South Africa was the abundance of the raw materials, which is here. And then also the fact that the trade agreements that both South Africa and Botswana have with, for instance, under AGOA or with under EFTA, SADC EFTA agreements, those are great opportunities that we are using. The other great opportunities, of course, the fact that the global market for these oils is huge, and we're still lagging behind in meeting that demand generally. So that's an opportunity we need to capture and to use. I'm actually encouraging people to get into this oils, vegetable oils. And we have an association in Botswana called the Natural Products Association of Botswana, Natural Products Association of Botswana, which is an association which just says, encourages which members and people who are using or who are wild harvesting or using products from the wild and natural products to do something they can export. Quality and quality. Getting accreditation, just getting continuous testing, because you can. I know there are on the market now some oils that claim to be marula, which are mixed with other things. That's a bad name. So, for instance, within SAPOA, that is the Southern African Essential Oils Producers Association, we're trying to set standards. Say, okay, when we say marula oil, it has this characteristics. So that we all then keep within those characteristics. When we say saponification value, it has to be between this and this, and then we can say it's marula. Peroxide has to be between this parameters and so forth, so that then the ones who are doing fake things, it can be clear. If it comes, vegetable oil comes from Southern Africa, it should be within these parameters. That's what we're trying to do. We have that, and fortunately, we are having the likes of Abiosa helping us to do those kind of standards. There is a demand, like I said before, which is not being met, far from being met. So I'm saying let's use this opportunity to do that. May it be food, may it be oils, vegetable oils. Let's do it. We can do it. We have the raw materials. Yes. Other challenges we can overcome them.
Thank you so much again, Thandi, for sharing all your experience with us and your journey. I'm sure there's a lot of people that can follow your example. Our next speaker is Mr. Wynand Gericke from the Residue company operating in Lesotho and residing in Gauteng. Wynand Gericke will share with us his experience and his journey into wild harvesting. Over to you.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was in 2016, I was involved in a business venture with another colleague, and he introduced me to the industry. We started off with Residue. So one of the pioneers in the Residue industry in South Africa was a guy by the name of Ed Cressy, who passed away a few years ago. And I was introduced to him, and we started looking into the wild collection of products, in South Africa, and that's how we started. And we just started as a thing where we saw people in the industry, or not in the industry, people in rural communities where products are growing all around them, but they do nothing with the product, and then we started getting them involved. Interesting and very challenging, industry, because the first thing that you have to do is you have to identify certain products. Like, for instance, let's just work on the Residue for now, where we started. So when we look at the Residue side, we identified the product. The first thing that I did was I did some market research to see Now, is there a market for the product? So I did a few things on the internet, doing some testing the waters to see. And when that took place, and I saw, well, there's a market for the product, then we started going into communities where these products were growing. And it's not everywhere where it's grown. There's just like certain patches where it just grow, call it naturally. So what we've done is we go from village to village and find out, and look around and see where the product is growing. And when we establish that, we start talking with the community leaders or the chiefs, of the villages. So we're starting building a relationship with the traditional leader, and they really do welcome it. But at the end of the day, there's two ways about it. You can't just go in there and plunder. You make arrangements with the community, with the chief, everything, and then you come to agreement that you will do some wild collection in the area. And then, of course, you pay the people accordingly. The thing with wild collection is you can only take from the land what the land is giving you. You can't take more. And we've seen over the years now, we're talking about 4 years now, how inconsistent it can be. Because some seasons, you get like a bumper crop, but other seasons it's a bit low. So on the sustainability side of things, when we look at the plant side, where we do the harvesting, there's a lot of training involved there, because you have to work with the people, make sure they don't damage the product that you are harvesting. We use these words. We say this plant is like a boss paying your salary every time for you. If you kill him, it's going to give you nothing more. So we try to bring that across to them. So that is on the sustainability side of things to receive it. But when it comes to a consistent supply for the clients, the way we do it is that we don't overcommit ourselves with clients, because we've got a client base, a fixed client base, and we supply them with certain volumes. So when they come with large volumes and say they want, let's say 7 tons, and we know we can't supply them, or it will be a challenge if we supply them with 7 tons and the next year we will not be able to commit to that. What we'll do is we will give them 5 tons, and we'll know that we will be able to supply them 5 tons. And if there's a new client coming on board, we will also be able to bring them in and maybe say, yes, we can supply you 1 ton for this season. And then as you enlarge your territory, with the wild harvesting, you can start bringing in bigger volumes. When it comes to quality, at the end of the day, you have to begin with the beginning for quality. So first of all, the important thing is that we see that there's no pesticides being sprayed in the area and any form of pesticides being used. The advantage of wild collection is that the areas where we collect this product is in the rural areas. So that is the majority of the area. I would say about 90 to 99% of our area that is wild collected with which is free from pesticides. So what we then do is, on the quality side, is we start with the harvester. Make sure that the product they deliver is clean. We give them bags from ourselves, that they don't use their own bags. We show them where to store the product. If we haven't collected, we do like a once a week collection. So in that week, we make sure they store it at the right place. We train them. You can't store this next to paraffin, diesel, any other type of chemical. And it's actually very nice, if you go to the areas and you see our people, because they take pride in it. You must understand, because they live from the land. So they take pride in it, and they show you the area that they clean, and they put the bags there in it. So that is where you start. You start with the harvester, and then you work it back right into your processing plant. We want quality oil to be delivered to the end user. So we take all the factors in mind. So first of all, we look at the product when we start harvesting the product. You don't want the product to stand still for a long time or get mold and things like that. So those are the things that you completely phase out. Then the next thing that you do is when it comes into your plant, you want to process it as quick as possible. So you must have the capabilities. Your plant must be big enough to handle the capacity of the plant material, or the like in the rapeseed oil, you know, to have the capacity to do it. The vegetable oils is a little bit different than your essential oils. But with your vegetable oil, yes, the product can stand a bit longer, but on your plant material, you know, like your Helichrysum or your Artemisia afra, those things you want to put into your pot as quick as possible to process. But on the other side, when your oil is now coming out, you know, you want to store it to the best possible means. You know, so we make use of on the vegetable oils, we make use of stainless steel. So our products only go through stainless steel, you know, containers, and then up to a point where we ship it to a client, then it will go into a plastic container from there. Then you store it in a cool place. It mustn't be exposed to light. You don't want to expose it to oxygen, because, you know, oxygen just destroys it. The oils, what we do with our oils, we've got some labs that we send our oils to, and we do our oils to test our oils. And there's also some processes that one can do prior to the time, you know, to make sure that you deliver a good quality oil. You know, on the rosehip oil or vegetable oils, you want your oil to be pressed as cold as possible. And then also when you adjust your heads, you know, you want to do it as slow as possible. Now, some people, you know, they want to push volumes, then they turn the RPMs of the presses up, you know, to get the oil out as quick as possible. We don't do that. We run it as slow as possible. And all that we do is we just buy more heads to do the same volume with a better quality of oil. Because, you know, it's no use you press that oil out, get it out, and at the end of the day, you know, 6 months down the line, it becomes rancid. We have a specific company that looks at our oil. They send it off for the tests, and they give us feedback, you know, on that. And according to that, we can see where our oils fit in, and when we, you know, comply to these standards. The important thing also about the type of standards, you know, it becomes sometimes difficult when the market determines a standard. You know, when you've got let's say, new oil, you know, on the market, which is not, you know, very popular. It's important for you as a producer to get that standard in sooner than what the market is specifying it to you. Else you will have to get it up to a certain, you know, level, or it's not always that the quality of the oil is bad because of certain, you know, levels. It's because people saw something, or somebody told them about, or there was an oil that was testing that level, and then they want that same oil to be, or that oil, or that species into that level. But when you look at different areas, you know, with your plant material, and it's like amazing, you know, 10 to 20 kilometer difference from one area to another area, the oil differs. You know, like for instance, if we take Helichrysum, Moderator, for instance, within 10 kilometer radius, we've got different camphor, you know, levels, huge differences, you know, like a 30 to 40% different level in camphor. It happens. So you must try to get the standard yourself, you know, if you can. Because we are organic certified on our products, you first have to take your labels to the organic certification body. They then determine this is what you have to put onto the label, and it has to be on a certain sequence on the label, and we conform then to those standards of the organic certification body.
Thank you again. And Wynand has also raised a very important point on the different chemotypes, and that is something that is an ongoing, constant research topic that SAOPA is trying to work on and working with other researchers. It really creates a problem in the marketplace. The buyers sometimes cannot understand why the oil is not the same as last year. And what we always then give as an example is wine. You will have a certain type of wine every year, but it will differ from season to season and from farm to farm. So thank you, Wynand, for alluding to that. And I'm sure there'll be lots of questions, which you're welcome to put in the question and answer section and on the side in the chat if you want to raise comments as well. Then our next speaker is Mr. Adolf Hubert. He is going to share us his journey and insight into the trade of seed oils. Adolf is the owner of AfriNatural in the Western Cape, and also, just like Wynand and Thandi and Grant, proudly members of SAOPA. Thank you. Next video.
Since about 1998, that's in a previous company that has merged into where we are now. We started off primarily marketing of botanicals, plant materials from Africa, Southern Africa mainly, to the rest of the world. And we developed the dynamic of the business to include pressed oils for the cosmetic trade. That was around about 2012, 13. We started off on that. And all along the way, we've constantly been having our hands on the essential oil as a theoretical possibility of marketing. And every now and then we try to do it. And the main fear normally is sustainability, repeatability. The quality is a relatively easy one to tackle, but that is a fact. So essential oil in our books is still a relatively small part of our total turnover, but it definitely is there. We keep it there. My staff have constantly said, shouldn't we take it out? I say, no, we're not going to take it out. The fact that we cannot offer it efficiently is not a reason to not offer it. We must find solutions. That's why I do appreciate what UNIDO is doing. There is enormous potential. In terms of all botanical content, South Africa probably supplies 100 times less than we should be supplying to the market, the international market. Still battle to offer more than 0.1% of the world potential, while we have 10% of the plant species in the world. So just based on the number of plant species, one would assume that we should be getting closer to 10%. We are 100 times below that. So there is potential growing from close to zero. The biggest dilemma we have is the danger that the supply lines will be interrupted some way or another. It's a question we get regularly in all our encounters with R&D departments, R&D companies, is how do I know that in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time, I will still be able to get that access to that content? So we have a problem, but there is potential. I have the approach to business that says if my client does not have a need, I can declare it as a need as much as I want to. It's not going to make any difference. The client must want it. And my experience in reality is, regardless of what I declare as quality, my buyers tell me what they want. So in my game, and again, I'm saying it from the perspective of pressed oils more than essential oils, but even on essential oils, the few rounds that we've had with them, the client would come to us and say, this is my specification, can you comply? And we sometimes succeed in doing it, but mostly we battle to actually meet on every item on the specification. So at this stage, I'm still saying that the client defines the standard. If the market is developed and matured efficiently, I would hope we get to the point where we can dictate and say, South African oils A, B, and C are of world standard. If we define the standard, the world follows our standard, but we are unfortunately not there. Seeing that they define what they want, they would give me a specification and say that is what we must comply to. And I must then find people. We're now working on Artemisia, for instance. We've been working on Tajet in the days of the Buchu earlier in the year. They would give us the specification for the requirements. And we have to go back to our producers and our sources and get them to adhere to that. Or if they can't, then I just can't make the offer. So there's, in my mind, no other standard than what the specification says. If you want to send any essential oil overseas, you have to adhere to hazmat rulings. And the simplest reason is that all international shipments have to comply to hazmat if you're working with a hazardous product, and essential oils are hazardous. So that's the easy one. You contract a hazmat company, and they do the packaging and the securing, the safeguarding of your product before you can deliver to the carrier. In terms of labeling, we do not have any instruction in that regard. We normally force the client to say, what do they want on the label? What do they require for customs? What do they require for their own needs? But the basic information would be there. Species name, the batch number, the date of manufacture, stuff like that we would put on. But most instances, it's a question of how the client wants it to be formulated and described, and whether we can comply to that so that we can fit into their system, into their customs demand. So there are certain things, but to big extent, it's either dictated with due the hazmat arrangements, that is a fact, or from the client side, when they decide, they instruct what they want us to do. Phytosanitary is a strange one. In South Africa, I believe it's got the intelligent approach to it, is that the phytosanitary declares a phytosanitary statement. It doesn't say anything else than that. Although the rest of the world somehow thinks the phytosanitary certificate says a lot of things that it doesn't say. So our Department of Agriculture that issues the phytosanitary certificates very simply says, unless they get an instruction from the receiving country's regulatory body on a letterhead in English stating what they want to have checked with a phytosanitary inspection, they do their standard inspection, and all they're checking for are phytosanitary issues. Are there bugs? Are there anything that is unwanted on the consignment? If there's nothing, like an essential oil, there's nothing in essential oil that should be defined by a phytosanitary certificate. And quite honestly, I don't know why you would issue a phytosanitary certificate for essential oil. But it's a balancing trick of what the receiving country and their customs require, and on the other hand, what the company, the buying company wants, and how that ties in with our department that issues this phytosanitary certificate. No one pays more for something that adheres to a standard. That's the minimum requirement. You adhere to the standard or you don't sell. Discounting won't even allow something to sell. So if the client has a specification saying they want A, B, C, and D, then we must comply to A, B, C, and D. Very simple, very easy. We take the samples to labs, of which there are a number in South Africa. Having your oil tested is relatively simple and straightforward. You tell the lab what you want tested in compliance to your demand, and they test it. If you comply to the demand, the specification, then you're fine. If you don't comply, you can't sell. Bringing us to the point that the testing is actually the end process of a process of training people to be efficient and well-trained, experienced essential oil distillers. I grew up in an environment with pressed oil, with Rosie in Lesotho, where even when you're working on a continuous batch, or with essential oils where you're working on batches, you must analyze each batch. You must get a pattern of your quality. You must have a consequential number of analysis indicating how your quality is retained and where it deviates, and try to find out why it deviates and find solutions for that. Now, some of the problems are intrinsically in the in the material that you are distilling. On the other hand, it's many times in the process, meaning that your process has got some deficiency or some problem that must be addressed. On the positive side, the big players in South Africa are known overseas as of the best essential oil manufacturers in the world. Same with our oil industry. You cannot build up your credibility as an oil manufacturer if you don't have a track record of the quality. But that also means you need money. The first question I would ask them, what is your experience in making oil? If you don't have experience, don't do it. Go and work as an apprentice, go and work with someone where you can learn the skills. Making an oil is a skill. It's not just something where you push it in a drum and you get an output, put it in a container and have it analyzed and it sells. Making a quality oil takes time. In 2012-13, I was helping a Namibian guy to do it on marula oil. It took us ages, I think about 3 years before we got to the point of actually producing an oil that was at the standard and of the quality that Europe, for instance, would be willing to buy. Concluding remark, I'm an eternal optimist. I am tied into this industry. I believe that we have enormous potential. We need to find a way in which we have a wider association between all role players, from the whole supply line, from production, from everything else related to that, right through to the people that have the closest interaction with international markets, and come up with solutions that can make a bigger marketplace. And I'm keen and willing to participate in any initiative to do that. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Adolf, for sharing your years of experience with us. And Adolf is a very good person. If you want to really find out something about the markets, he can share it with you. And he's got a fantastic team with him. So he's always there to support the producers when it comes to marketing information. Our next speaker is Mr. Ndwakulu Makufi. And when I was introduced to this industry in the year 2000, I found Ndwakulu there. And together, we've been always sharing what we went through. And Ndwakulu now is the CEO of NIMISA, and he's also seen as an essential oil expert. So Ndwakulu will be sharing with us the importance of quality infrastructure in supporting the essential and vegetable oil industry. Without this, I don't think that we've got a place in the rest of the world. So over to Mr. Ndwakulu Makufi.
Essential oils industry is one of the industries very close to my heart. And I always ask myself the same question as to how do I, as a small producer, get my produce into the international market, because it's an international market at the end of the day. And I think it is very important as producers, not only in South Africa, but in the continent as a whole, to acknowledge what we know, that it is only our superior quality that will make us competitive in the international market. And if you cannot prove that quality to a buyer, you might continue or be able to access that market and sell your produce in the market. But of importance, being a player in this industry, I know this for a fact, that you might end up selling your produce into the market at a low price when you could be fetching a higher price. So it is important to take advantage of the quality infrastructure that exists to ensure that you are not a price taker in the market. You can go to a buyer and say, look, this is the quality of product that I'm bringing to you. This is the price that I'm prepared to sell to you, because already you know what quality you have. And the role of the quality infrastructure in that case is the certificate of testing that you put on the table can be accepted by the buyer because you have proven the international equivalence of the testing that is done. That is from the accreditation of the laboratories, from the utilization of the measurement standards that are traceable to the international system of units, and the whole works. Now we are talking organic has to be accepted internationally. And that is you as a small producer offering a product in the market that you have characterized, you have tested, and you've got a certificate of that testing that you are able to market your product with. From a quality infrastructure perspective, one, whatever it is that you are producing, if it is not wild harvesting, it is important to ensure that you get the right genetic material to start off with, because that's where the source of your quality is going to come from. And get advice when it comes to production techniques that ensures that the components in the oils that are in demand are produced by your small crop in good enough quantities that you will be able to sell your essential oils into the market. The good thing is we have the right climate. We have a very good combination of climatic and soil conditions that allows us to produce very good quality oils. But do talk to people within Department of Agriculture and other people. And I want to mention here SAIOPA, the South African Essential Oils Producers Association, that engage with them. And my biggest tip is this: don't go at it as a lone producer. Join up with others, and in that way you are able to have the strength in numbers. So it is important, and as I indicated, the likes of SAIOPA will be able to link you with the likes of NIMISA and the rest of the quality infrastructure, so that you are able to get the necessary support, so that you don't get taken for a ride. Having played in the industry for many years, there is a lot of exploitation that comes because of lack of knowledge and understanding of how things should work. And as NIMISA, what we have been doing is developing the reference material that are required in conducting these tests for the essential oils and the vegetable oils industry. We are working on developing proficiency testing schemes that would be able to support other smaller laboratories that would be able to do some of this testing. But we are also working on developing a full suite of testing capabilities in support of the essential oils and vegetable oils industry in South Africa, as an intervention that would ensure competitiveness of the industry. So as you've noted, I have taken it from a superior product perspective, but then there's a minimum requirements of the industry that you need to prove that you comply with the minimum requirements, and that is at the standards level within the industry. And one of the areas that we are developing as NIMISA is the capability to be able to test against those standards for the specific areas within the sector. But being a player in the industry, I want to say it is important to note that our products are superior, and we've got to strive to show that superiority of our products. And the quality infrastructure is a very important stakeholder in ensuring that we produce the good quality that we produce. From an organic production perspective, I don't think anybody can beat what we have. I mean, we've got wild harvesting and other sub-sectors within our industry, which, I mean, it doesn't get more organic than that, but it is the certification of that process that is important. And you need the quality infrastructure to work in tandem with the industry to ensure that we are able to prove and actually stand firm and say, this is the product we are bringing in the market and this is the price we will take for it.
Thank you very, very much for that insightful summary, and we're really looking forward to going the way, all the way with NIMISA and also with the other people. I notice on our attendee list there are researchers, and you are dearly welcomed. I see a lot of producers, existing and new producers. I see people from the government. I see some testing laboratory guys on board, and I also see some of our buyers on board. And I really want to make use of this opportunity to explain what has happened in this industry since the year 2000 when we were formed. UNIDO and GQSP actually intervened and said, let us help build this industry to the strength and the place where it should be. And what I then got is a lot of support in creating the consciousness for quality. And what we see happening as a result is that the three big I can say, corners are coming together. And that is made up of the industry, it's made up of academia, and it's made up of the industry players itself in government. So what we see today is exactly that coming together of all those three pillars. We do have enough time for live questions. So I invite anybody from the researchers, from the buyers, from the producers, from government to feel free and pose a question for live. We've got our panelists ready to answer your questions. Anybody? Any questions there?
Karen, in the chat box, people would need to indicate who would like that I can activate them. If you put it in the chat box, please.
Sure.
Alternatively, try and raise your hand and I'll see if we can pick that up.
Sure. I see there's a question from Louise Alberts. She wanted to know if all the information and the slides will be shared from the past 3 days. So Wim, Elsie, can you just respond to Louise?
Yeah, it's a huge amount of information taking up a lot of meg space. So we'll be sending the link to the participants, and then they can then access the documents on CEOPA's website.
Thank you for that. And then there was a question from Maloko Mujapelo, who was asking what vegetables are we referring to, and what we refer to as vegetables is actually the vegetable seed oil. And that is what Adolf has been talking about. In South Africa, we have this notion, if you want to start something, find the market first, and then you plant. And as you heard, that is exactly where we're going at this point. Is there anybody else, maybe from the researcher's point of view? There was a comment also on the testing of the laboratories, and as Mr. Nwakulu has highlighted, there is quite a few laboratories in South Africa that can test the oils, essential oils and the seed oils. And we do have to be mindful of adulteration, as was mentioned by Thandi. So through proper quality testing, we can make sure that we have a good certificate of analysis. And with that, we use that as a marketing tool to make sure that we get into the market with a good reputation and a good price. Any other questions?
Adolf, your hand is up.
Yes, Adolf, go ahead.
Listen, I don't, yes, welcome to everyone. Thank you that I can participate. Not so much a question, but I'm one of those guys that likes taking up a challenge. And it has come up a few times over the last 3 days that we have a wonderful industry with incredible potential. And in terms of figures, it is actually overwhelming to see how we are underperforming. I mean, if I say underperform, then we are really underperforming. We can sell 100 times more than what we are at this stage from South Africa, and then we will get close to our world potential. And that's based on figures. Question is, how do we get to the 100-fold growth? And with support to all the initiatives that SAOPA and UNIDO have been working at helping us to build standards and all of that, because we need that. Now, you've heard that. Is we need to find ways of creating an acceptance overseas for product from Africa, from Southern Africa. And that doesn't come easy. We're a dark continent. We're a vague spot in the world atlas. They don't see us. They go to the Amazon, they go to South America, they go to Malaysia, because those regions are known and are made known by their governments. We don't exist. So we have to find ways of doing that. I'm very glad to understand that we are slowly getting an expansion or a bigger support to SAOPA to become even more significant in the role they fulfill in representing and interacting with various role players to achieve this. And I wanted to challenge everyone to not be naive in thinking that because you can produce oil, it will sell. We have to build the market and do it together. I think it was yesterday, the day before, the comment or the question was made about the fact that some, and especially the bigger established peoples, are very reluctant to share information. And it's actually very simple. I'm not blaming them. I know them very well. I know why. You won't share information if you are just creating competition for the same small market that we are all trying to attend to. Because all that happens, and it has happened in a number of sectors in our wider industry, prices drop. If you can only sell ABC volume of a product, and more entrants are joining the party and all are trying to sell to the same market, the prices drop. The small guys get most hurt because they fall out. The big guys have got a range of products and a bigger capital base behind them, and therefore they can survive. But it doesn't do our economy or our business any good because we are not growing the demand. And that's basically it, guys. We must find ways together to keep on encouraging each other, keep on asking the questions, prompting. And remember, you can't grow if you can't measure the growth. If we can't know what we are selling this year in 2021, and we're aiming for growth of 10% or 20% to 2022, we won't be able to do it if we can't measure it. And that is one of the things that I hope the association can get to, is to actually find the tools and get the participation of all people to actually say, yes, we have actually demonstrated a 20% growth. And by 5 years or 10 years, we'll get to that wonderful ideal of saying we've now sold 100 times more than we did 10 years back. But that is it. Just my encouragement at this end of this wonderful conference.
Thank you, Adolf. As always, very valuable talking to you, listening to you. And then we've also had a request from of people on the side that can you, for example, supply a letter of intent or a letter of market value and prices for, let's say, for the members of SAOPA that's got product in the ground. Adolf?
Can I do that in a? I'm not a politician, so unfortunately I have to give honest answers. You cannot give a letter of intent if we can't grow the demand. If we can't get DTI and international funders to assist us to go to the big regions in the world that are buying and explain to them why South Africa is open for trade. Do not listen to the news. Do not be plowed down by the negativism about why we can't and what our inabilities are. Go look at what we can do and demonstrate it. If we can't come back and say we have grown our demand by 20%, I can't give a letter of intent of selling anything because I can only sell what I have been selling up to now, except for what I grow when I succeed. And it is an uphill battle. And multiplying the request to me with the request to everyone else that we know. I see the names here around the table today, and all of them will confirm the same. It's difficult to actually express interest to purchase if you don't know that you have a significant bigger opportunity out in the marketplace. And that is our problem. We can't produce if we can't supply to a demand. Production doesn't move on its own. It has to be sold into a need. So unfortunately, people that ask me for a letter of intent normally get a very vague one that the banks don't like. Yes, I would buy if I have interest. There's no guarantee because I can't guarantee that I'll take 1,000 liters of oil or a ton of some kind of oil from you until I know that I have that market stitched up. And we are still, all of us in the marketplace, battling to get that done. So sorry for sounding very negative. I'm the optimist.
Thank you, Adolf. We are also realistic. Yes, Elsie.
We have Obed's hand up, but besides that, I would like to recommend that in the time, we have a few minutes in hand, perhaps Wynand and Thandi would like to say something more, having heard all the presentations.
Of course. Okay, let's attend to Thandi. Can you just give us another word and then we'll go Wynand And then Obert, it will be your time.
Hello. Yeah, I've been listening to all the panelists, and indeed we have opportunities, but we also have challenges. I like what Adolf just said, because it also, I thought maybe I was the one failing, because like he says, I cannot ask him. Because it's problematic to say, okay, because we want to keep the quality and the vegetable seed oils as fresh as possible, as new as possible when you send to the market. I always say to Adolf, when he asks me, maybe do I have 1,000, whatever huge amount of vegetable oils, I always have to say no, because I also maybe don't want to produce a lot when I'm not sure of the market that it's going to go. If I produce 7 tons of morula and then I'm stuck with it, it does not make sense. So we have also a problem then. I don't know how we're going to solve it, because for me also to source out the raw materials that I would need for huge amounts, I need to know that there's going to be a sale. So it becomes like a chicken and egg situation, but we need to somehow try to solve the issue. I don't know. It's just, I'm putting it out there for us to say, how are we going to deal with this? Because me sourcing the raw materials and not being able to produce that quality, not that the raw materials are not there, they're there in the wild, but how do I source them out, pay out money as a small business, and then I'm stuck with those huge quantities. So I always have to be careful how much raw materials I actually source out. And that is also problematic, because suddenly I get a big order. I can't meet it. It's not that I can't because I haven't sourced out those raw materials that I could if I had known in time that there's going to be such an order. Thank you. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, Thandi, for sharing that with us. Wynand, last word from you.
Yeah, you know, I was speaking the other day, I was speaking to someone, and I agree with Adolf. You know, if we can get the DTI and government, you know, to promote us as a player in the market, you know, it will definitely help. But you know, one can't wait for government. You know, we have to do what we have to our disposal right now. And you know, the thing that I see that this is my opinion, what I think can work. You know, when we talk about a market, you know, let's take for instance myself as a company, Rosehip Farm, that produces rosehip oil. You know, if I take other players and I collect some oil from other companies, I'm not creating a market. I'm creating a enterprise within South Africa, which is Rosehip Farm, which is not going to benefit the country as a whole. You know, when we talk about a market, I would like to see a marketplace. The marketplace, as in, there's multiple people doing rosehip oil. So when somebody wants rosehip oil, they know they can come to South Africa because there's a marketplace where they can buy rosehip oil from multiple players, you know, to fulfill their requirements. And I think that's a type of thing that we need to create within South Africa. You know, that when somebody comes, you know, like for instance, like marula oil is quite easy because, you know, that's where they're getting it from South Africa. But when we're talking about the other oils that are more difficult, to have all these oils available from different companies selling into other countries, you know, so we need to open the avenues for smaller players to sell in the open market, you know, overseas. But the difficulty is volumes. It always comes down to volumes, because we have people that places orders from us. They will say they want 2.5 tons of oil. Now, if we say, okay, we've got 1,000, you've got certain buyers that says, yes, I'll take 1,000, thank you very much. But other people say, we need 2.5, thank you very much, and they move on to the next marketplace. So somehow we need to create a marketplace where people can come to, and when there's multiple people going out into the overseas markets, I think that will create more scope of a marketplace within South Africa than where I'm as an individual, taking on other people. Oh, you produce so much, so much, so much. Okay, so we sell 10 ton of rosehip oil now into the overseas market. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Wynand, once again. Obed, your hand is up and you've been very patient, so it's your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon. I just wanted to say regarding the sustainable production of quality oils or quality essential oils. I think the greatest challenge is the involvement of the government in trying to work together with the entrepreneurs. What I mean by that is a lot of these oils that which have a potential in the world market do not have the infrastructure already existing in South Africa, like the infrastructure that which is there already of maize and other things. But if you look at that infrastructure of maize, you can see the involvement of the government into building that infrastructure, which makes the product of a good quality. And I would think as well that the government should be involved into trying to help the entrepreneurs of essential oils, the vegetable oils, into producing these quality products. And this means that there should be a sort of funding into these farmers and the producers to produce a quality. And then that guarantees to the marketers or those who can sell to the overseas market that they will have a good quality product. And if you look at or do the audit of all the presentation or the panels that which actually presented here, the main problem is the technology, but it is hidden because everyone here is doing things according to how they can do things. But there is certain things that which should be done by everybody solely the same, so that the quality is not different. Thank you.
Thank you, Obed. Always nice hearing your voice and sharing your experience. There's a question in the chat box from Peter asking if there's a possibility of freezing the product for storage in order to balance out the supply and demand. I'm going to give this question to you, Wynand, to see what is your opinion on this. Would you do that?
Yeah, freezing on oil, I would not recommend freezing, but cold temperatures, running it, anything above freezing level, 0 degrees, everything above that is fine. But you see, oil, okay, I want to mention a few things about oil. Oil don't want to be exposed to oxygen. It's a living organism that will deteriorate. The oxygen will deteriorate the oil. That's why if you take, for instance, oil and you put it in a 5 liter and let's say you fill it halfway, half oxygen, half oil, you'll see that 5 liter will have a serious dent. After a few months, it will dent in. It means that oxygen has oxidized some of the oil. So I will not do it. The other thing is heat. You don't want your oil to exposed to heat, and then also you don't want it to exposed to sunlight. Now there's people that say, oh, it can be exposed to sunlight. I don't want to take the chance. You pay the same amount for a darker bottle as well. Let's say a blue bottle, a green bottle, a black bottle, whatsoever, instead of a transparent bottle. So sunlight, I will not expose it to sunlight because it will heat as well the oil. You want to keep it as cool as possible. But when it comes to freezing, I'm not a specialist on freezing on all the different types of oils, but you stand the chance, with water as well coming into the oil, which will not make a serious, problem. but you don't want to deliver oil to someone where they take it and they put it into their product and they find water in the oil, and that will just have a negative effect on your quality of your product. And then of course metals, sorry, the other thing as well is other metals. The best metal to use is stainless steel 304, and of course upwards 316, etc. But you don't want it to be exposed to normal metal or iron type of products as well.
Thanks, Wynand. Is that the case for the essential oil and the seed oils, because you're doing both?
Yeah, for essential oils, we make use of the aluminium bottles. We store it in aluminium bottles, and the same. You don't want your essential oils to be exposed. You don't want to keep it open for a long periods of time. You want to do the oil, the distillation as quick as you want to do the distillation, not as quick as possible. You want to get the oil once the oil is out. You want to take it out as quick as possible. And get it filtered. Split it from the water, and then put it into your containers. So yeah, so on essential oils, we try to keep everything as cool as possible, but we don't freeze. I've heard about people that's freezing. My experience with freezing, when you freeze something, you get a form of water inside your oil.
Thanks, Wynand. Adolf, your hand is up as well.
Yes. A challenge to SAOPA, but before I get to the challenge, and this challenge only works if the participators participate with SAOPA. Just a quick response to Peter about the freezing. There's a cost, and we're already battling in South Africa to compete on cost. So just keep in mind that I believe the best solution for getting a stabilized supply and demand is to do what the big agricultural role players do. What do the rooibos people do? What does the potato and the maize people do? Is they find ways of stabilizing by accepting, to a big extent, the production and the demand. Bringing me to the opportunity we have for the years ahead. I can make oil. I have been involved in making rosehip oil. I know when Wynand speaks, I know exactly what he's talking about. I've been there. I don't want to be there. I'm thankful that Wynand is there. I've dabbled with essential oils. I do not want to make essential oils. And the reason is not because I don't want to do it. I don't think it's substantive to what I'm doing. Reality just is I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the focus. And the problem with a lot of new businesses, unfortunately, is that the expectation is if someone starts off with the essential oil production facility, he cultivates and he distills, and then he must still go and find overseas markets. Impossible. Totally impossible. You can't do it with one person. You can do it if you're a cooperative where you've got 3 or 4 or 5 significant members and you share the functions, where you say, you do the marketing, you do the financial management, I'll do the production, I'll do the cultivation. You can do it like that, but you can't do it on your own. What we need to do at some stage, Karen and Wim, SAOPA, is maybe have a nice workshop where we bring in the people from, say, agriculture or from other sectors and share their 100 years of experience about how do you assist a supply line that starts from cultivation or wild harvesting through production, through to international markets. How do you facilitate that process in such a way that people do what they do well, that people don't feel threatened by the fact that they do what they do, but that there's a good handing over, that the process runs smoothly because everyone's got their role and their place to fulfill. Even how to manage the competition, and the competition is incredibly important. You can't have a one-channel marketing output from South Africa. Say, we've now got SAOPA, SAOPA is now our agent, they're going to do all the marketing, all of us will supply to them. It will kill the market just there. You can't do it. You need a free, dynamic interaction between marketing as well. But we can do it in a much more coordinated way in that we don't kill each other in the process. By creating bigger demand, but also knowing how to manage our supply lines more efficiently. You know, in the rooibos, because I come from the Western Cape, in the maize, a lot of these big industries, that's very simple. The co-op would come to you because the co-ops finance the farmer's production and say, listen, this year I can only give you financing for so many hectares of whatever you plant, because that's all that we will be able to buy from you. You can plant more and find your own market for it. But if you want to supply through us, through the normal exporting channels, that is what we can do. And if there's a carry over from last year, this year, people will just plant less. If there's a shortage, everyone will plant more. And then you've got all the other variables. There are a lot of these lessons already cast virtually in stone, ingrained into the fiber of our South African society. We should get some of those people to sit down with us and say, teach us. We're a young starting off industry. We have some strong players. We've got some fresh new players. We want to learn how not to burn our fingers, how not to make each other cross, how to assist each other, how to together grow ourselves so that the world can say, wow, these guys down on the southern edge of Africa actually know what they're doing. They talk intelligently. They seem to have their finger on the pulse of everything that's happening. They can actually get what they want. Thandi said, I asked her for oils and she can't supply. I say, yes, that's my problem, not her problem. The fact is we do not know how to coordinate all these needs and opportunities and demands efficiently. So SAOPA, in a new role that's coming up for you guys, it would be a worthwhile exercise actually to sit down. I think all of us can do an enormous lot of good if we can listen to the wise men that have already been there, that have learned how to coordinate from production, from farm level, through the production process right out into the international markets. And that would be exciting, because I believe then we will start picking up traction and start picking up the volumes we all want.
Thank you, Adolf. With your point taken, challenge accepted. Can we have a final word from Thandi before we wrap up, please? Thandi, do you agree with what Adolf and Wynand has said? And do you think sell by date is important?
Hello. Yeah, in principle, I do agree with what Wynand and Adolf are saying. Indeed, we have to, organize ourselves. And I'm hoping, like Adolf just suggested, that SAPOA would see it as a challenge or to see whether they could do that role, so that there's some kind of coordination right from the beginning of the cultivation and the processes and then the marketing. In brief. Hello.
Yes, thank you, Thandi. Before we hand over the wrap up to Dr. Elsie Mentjes, I just want to thank you again, Thandi, all the way from Botswana, from Blue Pride, Wynand from Rosy Farm, Adolf from Afri Natural. You have really helped us out today to learn a lot and not to repeat all the lessons that you've already learned. So we really appreciate that. And then I think also Ndokulu is not in today, so we really appreciate that he could give us that clip. And I really want to thank you all for being so patient with all our challenges, that you've sit with us and that you've been here all the time. Adolf, I see your hand is up. Is that a new hand? You're muted. Oh, your hand down. Hand down. Okay, thank you very, very much again for all the speakers. Over to you, Elsie, for the wrap up, and then Elsie would also do the thanking for us. And I do want to invite you all to stay on, don't go, because at the end of this, there's going to be a video clip, those of you who haven't seen it, that captures this industry beautiful. It'll give you goose flesh, even if you have seen it yesterday or day before. It's really worthwhile to watch it again. Thandi, your hand is up. Have you got something else?
I just wanted to comment. I had forgotten to comment on the rose hip from Grant, talking about if there could be more people producing certain products like rose hip and what have you. And I think that is a good idea. That would help us with the volumes and so forth. So I'm wondering if the people in the different essential oils would be ready, for instance, to help. In Botswana, for instance, we have not come into the essential oils, but we have the land. And if there are people who are already cultivating in South Africa under the auspices of SAPOA, also working with SAPOA, I think that I could find potential farmers who would be ready if they have people who are guiding them and saying what species and exactly the genetics and so forth. Is that something that we could look at? But not only for rosehip, I'm thinking of other essential oils. If there are people here, farmers, potential farmers who are willing to say, okay, I'm ready to learn and produce whatever it is the other people in South Africa would be, are producing to add to the volumes. Would that be possible? Thank you.
That's very, very, very important. Thank you. Thank you, Tandy, for raising that. Wynand, I see your hand up. Do you want to have an answer for her?
Yeah, Tanya, I just want to mention something about what we are doing to helping people, and I don't know if the other producers can do that as well. So what we've done is we said to some of the people that want to get involved in rosehip and producing rosehip oil, things like that, that we will commit to a 500 kilogram of product that they can sell. We commit to them to go and market the product before they go and spend the money on, rosehip machinery, the oil presses. Now, depending on probably oil presses that you buy, it's quite costly. It can cost you, for machine, depending on the amount of heads, anything from 500 to over $1 million, for a 4 to 5 head press. So we then spoke to them and said, okay, what we do is we will give you 500 kilogram to market and see if you can get a market for the product before you go and spend all that money. So that was something that we thought that can work well for companies that wants to start up with something and they don't have all that capital layout. And where Adolf also said, where you get like the farmers involved and selling some product, or producing some product that you then buy from them, and then it's a spill over. And that is the one thing that I would like to see, is to create more markets. Not more markets, you've got one market, but if you look at a market, you take, for instance, the Johannesburg market where all the different products are. The carrots that's there is carrots from all different farmers. It's not just one farmer producing carrots. And if we can create that, and helping people and say, okay, I produce, let's say, for instance, 300 kgs of helichrysum, and I can do 500. I would say, okay, you want to produce the oil as well, so I'll earmark 200 kgs, and you guys can go and promote this, see if you can get a market. And then they know I've got 200 kgs of product that I can sell into the market. And then once the market buys more from them, they can then start with their own processing plants.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Thanks, Wynand. With that, over to you, Elsie.
Thank you very much, Karen. In the last 2 days, the wrap-up was pounced on me and I didn't have makeup on. So today I have makeup on, so I put on my camera. So Karen has already done a lot of thanking, but let me do the wrap-up. And today is the last of the trilogy. So how all this started was at the first Essential and Vegetable Oil Conference that was hosted in 2019. There was a need identified that there was an overwhelming response, actually, that people wanted to know more about quality. That was number one on the list. So with this webinar, between SAOPA and us, the GQSP supporting them, we tried to sort of unpack a whole lot of these quality issues. So in the first, I tell you, I've been in the standards and conformity assessment, accreditation metrology environment for my whole adult life. And I concur that it's a difficult story to tell, the role of standards, conformity assessment, accreditation metrology, in how it actually supports, how it facilitates trade and how it can help this industry in particular. Particularly an industry that really strives to be able to produce oils for cosmetics, for food, as well as for pharmaceutical products. So in the first session, we actually tried to unpack that a little bit, and we managed to get the CEOs from each of the main quality infrastructure institutions to actually talk to us as to their role. In the second series, the second webinar yesterday, we did a lot of experience sharing of enterprises in this market segment, and they shared their knowledge very generously. I'm sure you will agree with me. Today, we went a step even further, and we took some of the challenges that were identified, and the speakers were, as I'm sure you will agree with me, they shared very generously with giving some advice, some sound advice to the marketplace. And then we went a little bit further, and a whole lot of challenges have been issued. So we hope that those challenges will, we will take them up in due course. So basically, that was a long story to say that the focus of these sessions in the last 3 days was on quality, right? And there are many, many other issues that need to be discussed as well. But today, for the last 3, that's what we did. We did quality. Now, 2 years ago, we also had a session and we talked about to oil or not to oil. I'm sure you remember that as one of the themes. And I think in the last 3 days, we've actually heard that, yes, there is a case to be made for to oil rather than not to oil, but that the various challenges need to be taken care of. We have also, I mentioned that there are many other aspects for this industry as well that need to be discussed. And I'm very happy to see the progress in the last 2 years that we actually have started talking to each other as the industry. So we've had various inputs in the last 3 days, which I'm sure SAOPA will take note of very carefully. Besides what was just been suggested now in this forum by the speakers, and we're happy that we could actually open it up for general discussion. One of the suggestions is also that we should run some kind of a workshop on the pitfalls of wild harvesting, particularly for those enterprises who would like to grow the business rather than just say, well, you know, I've got this little piece of the pie and that's all I want. There are others who actually want to grow more, but there are challenges. And I think Thandi also alluded to that in her presentation. In the last 3 days, we've also heard that we've heard the importance of networking, of sharing knowledge, and of joining hands so that we can strengthen the industry. And I think Adolf actually said, he alluded to why there's secrecy within the industry, because we've sort of really battled to try and understand that. But I think, Adolf, thank you for sort of elucidating that a little bit. Now, I would like to indicate for those who, and I'm sure you all know, but just in case you don't, SAOPA, the other thing that we also learned in the last 3 days, and certainly in the last 2, is that do your market research. Don't just think there's an opportunity, I'm going to make this oil. Do your market research. We've had it from a buyer's perspective as well as a producer's perspective in the last 2 days. So to get back to the SEOPA support. SEOPA, I'm sure you know that they have a number of interest groups. They now call them chambers. They've been established last year, maybe this year. I'm not even sure where we are anymore. Maybe more this year than last year. There are a number of chambers dealing with specific oils, and I would like to encourage anybody doing these oils to get into contact with SEOPA and to join these chambers, because these chambers, they operate on a WhatsApp platform, which is very user-friendly compared to us having to organize something like this and then hoping we can get people to come and participate and blah, blah, blah. So there are opportunities available, and it won't cost a lot of money to join. It just requires that really, ideally, you should be a member of SEOPA, ideally. So, Adolf, we note your many challenges. I think we've recorded at least 2. We'll take note of that. But before I actually do the final closing, we would like to run a poll, please. I'm going to launch the poll now. I've launched the poll. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Karen, can you see the poll?
Yes, it is clear. You can see it.
Okay. So we have 21 persons who can potentially respond to the questions. Please, we would like to encourage you to do so. When you get to question 4, just in case it needs any explanation, I don't think it really needs an explanation, but basically for number 4, now for some reason I can't see number 4.
Also, you've got session number 1's poll.
Ah, that definitely helps. Sorry, thank you. Thank you for that. I launched the wrong poll. I'm sorry. Let's go back, try and launch the right poll. Now, why am I not managing? Hold on. Oh, I'm getting there. Okay. This is not, no, this is session 2. That's also not the right one. Why is this?
Elsie, we could consider taking yesterday's poll.
Okay, I tell you what, I'm not sure why it's not, no, this is the right one. Okay, sorry, I didn't change the poll name. This is the right poll. Okay, please ignore the naming. That's my mistake. If you could answer these questions, that is actually the correct ones. Can you all see them?
No.
You can't. Okay. Okay, I'm launching.
Not yet. Yes, it's there.
Okay, you can. Okay, all right. You can see it. Okay, when you get to question number 4, I just wanted to explain that, you know, ideally we really wanted to have these sessions in the conventional way where we could network during tea time and lunchtime and afterwards, etc., etc. But it isn't possible with the COVID. So I think it's already been explained that we try to do the best we can. So question number 4 is basically to say, if we were in a live session, we would clap hands for the speakers. But we aren't in a live session. Would you like to do that virtually? I'm sure I didn't need to explain that, but let's see. Okay, let's see. We've only got 8 out of 20 participated. We would like to encourage some more. I'll wait till we get about 80% participation, and we are running a bit over time. Thank you for being patient about that. It was to allow time for the for the additional discussions. 15. Okay, we've got 75% participation. I'd like, if possible, to get it up a bit more.
Oh, I don't know, I can't click. Ugh.
You can't click.
Yeah, technologically challenged, I think. I'm trying to click my answer.
You'll see
No,
at the bottom.
It won't work because you're a panelist.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry, Tandy. Tandy, it won't work because you're a panelist. Okay.
Okay.
I should have explained that.
Understood.
Okay,
thank you.
then can you quickly write down these answers? Just bear with me. I just want to make okay, let's run through this. Then okay, the results. I'm going to end the poll now. We've got 88% participation. Thank you. Okay, I'm sharing. I've shared the results. We've got 63% that this session compared well with the expectations. The overall take-home value, 56% said good, 38% said excellent. The pre-recorded sessions, we have 50% saying they're good, 38% saying it's excellent. And we have a 94% saying, thank you, we would like to clap hands virtually. Now I'm going to stop the sharing. And then Wim, Karen, you, Ron, me, we can please put on your cameras and do this.
That's good.
Oh, Karen hasn't been able to, guys, thank you very much. All right, so for the speakers, I think the audience has said it all. They would have given you a very loud round of applause. Thank you very much for that. The one person that I have not introduced today or has not been introduced yet, and Ron, please put on your video again. Mr. Ron Josias basically engineered the 3 webinars. Thank you very much, Ron, for that. And the feedback that we have got, as you've seen, is very good. And who else must I thank? Let me just say, you know, in Botswana, if we had meetings, we always used to say all protocol observed. So in case we'd left out somebody. So in case I've left out somebody, let me say all protocol observed and thank you all, including the audience. Thank you for your participation. And with that, I think I have had the final say now. Corinne, did you want to say anything more before we launch the video for those who would like to watch? For those who've already seen it and don't want to watch, we thank you for allowing us to run overtime and staying with us. You please feel free to log off as we show the video. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dr. Altimenkis. Just what I want to say.
Okay, so the final video.
South Africa, home to 21,000 plant species, sporting many protected biomes and known for its unique flora and fynbos, is the 3rd most biologically diverse country in the world. No wonder then that South Africa's essential and vegetable oils are in high demand in major economies like the United States of America, Europe, and the United Kingdom, with growing demand in Japan, Canada, South Korea, and on the African continent. Essential and vegetable oils are used by flavor and fragrance industries to create flavors for food and beverages, perfume compounds for cosmetics, household products, and fine fragrances, among many other applications. The time for South African producers to export has never been more favorable.
The global market for these oils is huge. and we're still lagging behind in meeting that demand.
Probably a decade ago, South African oils weren't very well known. They have become more well known overseas, and I think a lot of the buyers overseas now realize that our quality is just as good as anywhere else. Efficient, our prices are competitive. So I'm very positive about the export potential of South African oils. And that would be essential oils and vegetable oils as well. And I think we're fortunate to have quite a diverse flora in South Africa, where you can't find it anywhere else in the world.
South Africa has the potential to become a major supplier of indigenous, essential and vegetable oils. The way to make this a reality is by ensuring compliance with standards and independent, internationally acceptable verifications of compliance. Currently, only a fraction of the world demand for essential and vegetable oils is produced in South Africa and exported to regional and international markets. With such high potential, what is preventing South African farmers from exploiting this opportunity?
We have faced quite a lot of challenges, and I think the key one has been the quality issues, understanding what quality the customer is asking for and ensuring that we are producing that right quality.
Consistency of production, consistency in quality of goods and compliance to standards and good agricultural practices are key requirements of the export market. Thus, careful control of all phases of cultivation, processing, storage, and transportation of the essential and vegetable oils value chain is crucial. To do this requires a good understanding of the supporting role of quality infrastructure through standards, metrology, accreditation, and conformity assessments such as testing, inspection, and certification. Soil preparation lays the basis for product quality, crop yield, and resource utilization. Soil sampling and analysis can therefore help to ensure that soil conditions are sufficient for crop and seed needs.
But you mustn't think that a lavender is a lavender, a geranium is a geranium. It is crucial that you understand that you're starting with the correct genetic plant material when you get into essential oils.
Then when you do a soil test analysis, you are able to see what the soil is able to do on its own and what you need to do in order to feed it to get optimum results.
We always advise farmers, first of all, what do you want to plant? And then they say, I want to plant this. And then I say, what type of soil do you have? They say, I have this type of soil. I say, well, I agree with you. I will come and then look at the seeds and see the variety that is, whether it is compatible to that soil. But the soil, we must take it to be tested.
Compliance and monitoring of adherence to the required produce or quality management standards, best practice certification, and safety regulations are obviously important.
We primarily are involved in organic production, so we have to have organic certification. That's an annual process, an annual inspection that gets done by an independent certification agency. And in our case, we certify our product to both EU organic standards as well as the American National Organic Program.
Accredited testing and certification services provide the required confidence of compliance to the various standards and regulations. The timing and correct harvesting of essential and vegetable crops is paramount to the character, quality, and yield of its production.
We ensure that the quality of the harvest, firstly, we do training for our harvesters, so they know exactly what to look for. For instance, they know that they won't get like morula from a goat crawl or something because it smells. So that's how we ensure that the quality right from the beginning is correct.
Depending on the crop, the harvested materials should also be distilled as soon as possible after harvesting. In processing and subsequent storage, managing risks such as contamination and exposure to adverse conditions that may impact the quality of the oil produced would be important.
So we take all the factors in mind. So first of all, we look at the product when we start harvesting the product. You know, you don't want the product to stand still for a long time or get mold, things like that. So those are the things that you completely phase out. Then the next thing that you do is when it comes into your plant, you want to process it as quick as possible. The vegetable oils is a little bit different than your essential oils. But with your vegetable oil, yes, the product can stand a bit longer. But on your plant material, like your Electricium or your Artemisia afra, those things you want to put into your pot as quick as possible to process.
Once distilled or pressed, the oils need to be tested in readiness for selling. Testing of the oil quality plays an important role in the ultimate price that would be paid for the produce.
Having your oil tested is relatively simple and straightforward. You tell the lab what you want tested in compliance to your demand, and they test it. If you comply to the demand, the specification, then you're fine. If you don't comply, you can't sell.
More and more social standards with a focus on sustainable farming, the prevention of child labor, the reduction of global warming and other environmental and social protection matters are becoming a requirement for the export of essential and vegetable oils globally.
From Eucalypt Forest's point of view, we are very big on social impact in our area. And, we enjoy being able to tell our clients what we're doing. And it's something that we've always done.
Compliance to required standards facilitate the acceptance of essential and vegetable oils produced in South Africa for export.
The market does require certification. The rest of the world, I think they're going the certification route. They want products that are clean, products that are green, products that have a social story to it, that benefit beyond us as the business, that benefit the bottom of the pyramid, as it were. And with the different certifications, the product or the prices, there's a certain premium that you attract, above the standard selling price. The certified product itself pays for the certification. It's more for us to control the quality. But when a customer receives the oil, they will send it to an independent lab, which has got some accreditation.
There is no doubt that standards, metrology, accreditation and competent testing, inspection and certification results play a major role in the crop yield and the quality of essential oils. Ensuring adherence to these required standards means people living abroad can also share in South Africa's rich biodiversity through its precious essential and vegetable oils, generating greater revenue for local producers and making the world a more fragrant, flavorful place for everyone.
Right, that's it. Thanks very much. Ron, thank you. You must be very proud of yourself.
Thanks, Elsie.
Yes, thanks, Ron. You saved us a few times today.
It was a good session, I think.
Hey, challenging.
It was challenging, but I mean, people started to talk, which was actually quite nice. All the other things that we would not be able to record, so it was actually quite nice. I think the key issue continues to be that of networking, which is going to become quite important.
There's some comment in the chat box, Elsie. I don't know if you noticed that I'm copying it all, but just before it goes away, so you can just see that. It's quite nice.
Yes, thank you, Corinne. I was hoping you were copying.
Yeah.
Elsie, could you possibly unmute Louise Alberts? I would like to quickly talk to her.
Okay. Gee, I'm being very nice to you today.
She's
have.
still there. Oh, goody.
Yes.
Louise, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, fantastic. Man, two things. Firstly, I want to put your mind at rest. Yes, you